Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's EMERGE HealthTech Talk, which we are continuing the discussions we're having on stage at EMERGE this year, online, as we go through all the information that is needed to move healthcare forward. Today, we have a very interesting session. Discussion and amazing speakers. We are going to be talking about adapting healthcare innovation, market access and regulatory, a focus on GCC. We have with us Ayman Semaan, market access and pricing lead from Biologix. He's the director of communication and also the ISPOR Lebanon chapter lead. Ayman Semaan leads the market access and pricing function at Biologix, covering the Middle East and North Africa, and holds a principal role in the group's pricing committee. His experience includes 18 years of functional and leadership positions in sales, marketing, and market access and pricing in various business models. In a highly evolving and diversified healthcare environment, Ayman's responsibility focuses on securing treatment access through tailored and innovative solutions in the areas of rare disease, hematology, oncology, neurology, immunology, and cardiometabolic. Ayman holds a master's degree in health sciences from the Lebanese University and the Joseph Fourier University, as well as general management program certificate from the I can't say French, guys. École Supérieure des Affaires, ESA. Maybe he can help us with that pronunciation. He's serving a 2-year tenure as Director of Communications for ISPOR Lebanon chapter and takes part of expert panels in regional and global market access pricing and health economics congress. Welcome, Ayman. We're very happy to have you here. I'd like to introduce also Dr. I'd also like to introduce Dr. Samah. Dr. Samah Ragab, she's the Regulatory Affairs and Pharmacovigilance Director of Middle East from Organon. Welcome, Dr. Samah. She's Senior Corporate Executive for more than 20 years of experience in the field of biopharmaceuticals and health tech. She worked in both public and private health sector, led key transformation and reform projects, and held key positions in different functions such as medicine safety, health system reform, management of pharmaceuticals, healthcare industry policy and regulations. She's a pharmacist by education and obtained her master's degree in public policy from the American University in Cairo and taught health policy and regulation in several professional and academic programs. She aspires to lead in shaping the ecosystem for healthcare sector transformation, utilizing new breakthrough technologies in bioscience, big data, and AI. And this shows exactly why she's here today with Ayman discussing how to move things forward. And we're very excited to hear their perspective and also learn from them. And please, everybody, welcome to put your question and answers in the question box so that they can look at that when they're done with their presentation and answer all your pertinent questions. Ayman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madre, and the EMERGE 2050 team for setting this webinar, and certainly a big thanks to Dr. Samah for partnering and setting the talk together for today. So I believe you can see my screen for now. This is our disclaimer, Samah and I. So today's webinar will basically focus on 4 elements. First, the patterns of evolution in healthcare. And then we will address the regulatory aspects and access to health innovation. To move after that to market access and innovation, the frameworks and policies. And then to end with the critical success factors for adapting healthcare innovation. The presentation of today will also focus on the GCC part of our aspiration. So I will start first, and then I'll give the talk to my colleague Samah. Basically, what really gives you an inspiring overview on the progress in healthcare is a beautiful visit to the village of Heidelberg in Germany, where you can also see the museum of pharmacy that shows you basically how pharmacological treatments have progressed since the year of 1760. It looks like a time machine when you get into this museum, and the visit is certainly very inspiring. I believe all the efforts made in the last maybe 200, 250 years have really led and consolidated the foundation of the giant leaps and the giant progress we are witnessing in the last maybe 5 to 10 years in the field of innovation in healthcare. So a publication of McKinsey has called this innovative leaps the biorevolution, talking about biomolecules, biosystems, biomachine interfaces, and biocomputing, and after that, the integration of artificial intelligence, cell and gene therapies, all that. So the question of today, how is market access and regulatory adapting frameworks and policies to be able to adopt all these innovation within the region? So not only what we call the bio revolution, but also we have critical information coming from the role of artificial intelligence, and not only limited to healthcare diagnosis. We all know how much the AI has been able to revolutionize the healthcare diagnosis, and thus it will certainly impact to more and more creation and production of new molecular entities and new therapy in order to address all these aspects in the innovation at the diagnosis level. We're witnessing a rise in the pipeline of cell and gene therapies, and there are many references that I can provide that shows that in many, not only limited to hemato-oncology, but also beyond, to rare diseases, immunology, we're witnessing a rise in the pipeline of cell and gene therapies. We're looking into trials in cancer vaccines, etc., etc. And not only that, we're also seeing that AI is being able to scaling up the trends and the progress in healthcare. We're also witnessing the integration of virtual reality in surgeries, but also huge steps are being done at the neurology level. Also, it's redefining the boundaries of what human is capable to do in neurology. So we all know that all that is coming at a certain cost, and the apprehension and the adoption of such innovation will certainly need to come with a specific adaptation of regulators, industry, payers, and all related stakeholders. An interesting publication on the left-hand side of IQVIA shows that not every new molecular entity is reaching the patient at the end. So we have many barriers. The first could be the registration barrier, and then after that, the pricing barrier, and after that, the reimbursement barrier. So probably less than 30 to 35% of innovation available at a global level is reaching the patient in our region. And I believe that with adapting frameworks to all this innovation, we will be able to integrate more and more and make sure that patients have access to that. With this, I give the talk to my colleague Samah to address first the regulatory aspects and access to health innovation.
Thank you, Ayman. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ayman, for the great introduction. And as you mentioned, in this great advancement in health technology, in bioscience, and the digital disruption that we are witnessing in healthcare. So the global regulatory trend also has to adapt and to evolve to match this advancement. Next slide, please. So if we're talking about the global regulatory trend evolving now, responding to this evolution, we can see the key significant success factor here is to realize patient centricity and how to bring patient voices in regulatory decision making, to bring what really patient needs to have as soon as possible in the market. And the very important trends here I want to highlight is the first one is the global collaboration and harmonization and reliance practice, where health authorities around the world started to recognize the approvals and the assessment of the new therapies and the new technologies by the stringent health authorities like FDA and European medicine agencies. So this will actually help us to accelerate the review process and the review timelines, as Ayman mentioned, that tends to be one of the basic limitations for fast access in our markets. Also, we can see the revolution in R&D and how the clinical trials are evolving in the designs, how to bring innovative clinical trial designs to basically adapt and to bring the adaptive clinical trials for specific technologies that cannot find this huge population that are needed for the ordinary pathway of clinical trial, the golden standard clinical trials, 3 phases that we used to have. Also, the utilization of real-world evidence. We can also see a lot in terms of the digital transformation, the leverage of data analytics and AI in building this risk-benefit approach in evaluation of the dossier of the new innovations. And moving to our region. Next slide, please, Ayman. Talking about the ecosystem for new health technologies and new therapeutics, innovative therapeutics, we have to know our stakeholders, our key stakeholders, and actually they are many. This is one of the challenges here is to identify the stakeholders, try to engage with them all, and to understand their concerns, their objectives, what exactly they want to make sure to be in the technology that we are bringing to the market, and to start our discussion and advocacy with them. Next, please, Ayman. So the basic considerations here that we need to engage with stakeholders in discussions on the incentives for innovation, because incentives for innovations can be many things. Starting from the prices for the biotherapeutics that are already regulated, that have regulated prices in our markets, moving to how to facilitate the registration of new companies, startups, lots of incentives. We can facilitation of course, managing the healthcare data and adopting the new technologies of AI and data analytics, and the laws and regulations that are here for this kind of products. So incentives can vary, so we have to engage in discussion about this incentives that we want. The other thing also is the regulatory collaboration and reliance. We can see it really progress very well in biotherapeutics and in pharmaceuticals. However, it needs to be more realized and expanded to medical devices, software as medical devices, and other medical equipments that brings innovation, like diagnostics and many other healthcare innovations. And finally, to bring an agile and iterative framework for regulations here. And we started to hear about in some of the advanced markets like Canada and US about the regulatory sandbox, where where the authority or the government provide a controlled environment for new advanced innovations to start testing the new approaches and the new things and bring it to the market, not in the the ordinary pathway, but testing how these regulations fit with this new approach in therapy or in diagnosis or in healthcare solutions. Next, Ayman. And for the developers here, what considerations that we should think about when we are bringing our technology to the market? First, of course, to understand the regulatory framework. And we are here talking about several kinds of regulations. If we're talking about the digital solutions that will manage health data, so we have to make sure that we are complying with the data sharing and data management laws and the transfer of data outside the territories. If we're talking about the biotherapeutics, cell therapies, gene therapies, medical devices, software as medical devices, we have to check the local guidelines and the local regulations. And we have in our region regulations to actually regulate these kind of products. For also the aspect of data privacy and security, we have the very two big regulations, the GDPR in Europe and the HIPAA, or the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act in US, where most of the digital solutions should abide with. And recently we have Saudi Arabia issued their patient data, personal data privacy law, and it is now active in Saudi Arabia, and it's more or less inspired by the GDPR of Europe. However, they have some also local requirements to make sure that data privacy and security are fulfilled in our markets. Also, very important to if you're developing a software or a digital solution, to consider the life cycle compliance. Since the very beginning of the development, you should think about what are the regulations that, what are the standards that I should fulfill, and to consider from the very early development stage, not to finalize the solution and then start to think how we can now fulfill the regulations. Even if you are testing an MVP, your MVP should actually consider and pay attention to the local regulations if you're using patient data or any other regulatory consideration. And finally, you have to pay attention to the third-party risk. In digital health solutions, we have many stakeholders here involved in the product production. The data provider, software developer, device manufacturer, Also, sometimes we promote and commercialize through other companies. All these companies should actually be held to your standards, and also monitored if there is any risk, how to mitigate any risk that is coming from any of these third parties, because there is something called product liability, and all of these stakeholders or partners are held liable if any litigation happened because of the product. So you are responsible to also consider any risk and put a mitigation for it. This is in brief the regulatory part I want to share with you, and handing over again to Ayman.
Thank you, Samah, for this insightful part. And now we will address in what relates to market access and health economics, how policies and frameworks are adapting to adopt healthcare innovation. So first, I would like to state that the change and the metamorphosis in market access frameworks is not very recent. It goes back to several years back to the initiation of the HEOR science, concomitant managed entry agreements, and also the rise of evidence that is really required to inform health economic decision and to inform as well managed entry agreements. However, the progress here shows some discrepancies between countries and other countries, and some also discrepancies between the progress of adoption of HEOR at a global level. We all know that recently we have the joint clinical assessment in Europe, and the plans also to unify clinical assessment and economic assessment. So this is at a global level. However, at a regional level, we also see that there are lots of progress in what relates to the change of health economic frameworks to make sure that a new innovation has a fair and approachable way to assessment. Among these local publications, studies, initiatives, one of the most important is the valuation of the EQ5D5L in Saudi Arabia. This is a national project that is very critical to develop evidence that will inform HEOR framework and guidelines at a later stage. A very recent also publication has shown that early initiatives have been shown in Oman, but also in other countries in the Gulf, whether UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. These projects also are pushing into the formalization of these frameworks. Like, for example, the Saudi FDA has recently published the Economic Evaluation Studies Guidelines that will govern the assessment, the economic assessment of newly submitted products to Saudi FDA. But not only that, we've seen initiatives as well at the regulatory aspects through like the Breakthrough Medicine Program, the guidelines of the classification of the advanced therapy medicinal products, or what we call ATMPs, that include cell and gene therapies, for example, but also the development of national committees to study expensive medicines, also part of these new innovation that are reaching the Gulf. Believe the slide. So You know that HEOR has several aspects of it, of which budget impact model, cost effectiveness analysis, and many, many others. However, the sophistication of HEOR is also reaching an interesting level within the Gulf by the development of frameworks related to multi-criteria decision analysis, whether in UAE or Saudi Arabia. And these are very important frameworks to support healthcare decision-making, especially in what relates to orphan drugs and rare diseases. The changes and metamorphoses in the value-based healthcare have also led that regulators of private insurances have also developed frameworks to assess a new innovation and also dictate very specific requirements for file submission, for the integration of economic tools in order to inform a better assessment to all these innovation, whether the Council of Health Insurance in Saudi Arabia or the DHA, Dubai Health Insurance Corporation, also with the initiative of IJADA, that is an important and integral part of the shift towards value-based healthcare. So an important step also to look into is that with these innovation, we are witnessing, let's say, a shift in the value assessment. Previously, the clinical aspect used to have a very important share of the assessment of a new technology. However, we are also witnessing that there is a shift in the elements of value. And there are frameworks developed by ISPOR Global, what we call the value flower, to promote a more holistic approach to assessing these new technologies and innovation. These frameworks will help regulators, industry, stakeholders to fuel every aspect of the value and look at every new technology in a more holistic way and give a more fair approach to assessing value. So beyond clinical, we also look at quality of life, productivity, the value of hope, equity, and many other aspects in order to look at the value. So we are witnessing more or less what we call a redefinition of value within these market access and HEOR frameworks. I will move here also, and in a link to what my colleague Samah has presented, patient centricity. There are many frameworks now promoting more and more the integration of the patient voice in research, but also in the assessment of medication, in order also to deliver and assess a value that includes the patient voice. Many frameworks are published at this level related to precision medicine, also including patient as partners in clinical and outcomes research, and many other publications. What is critical in this aspect is to make sure that we have in our region more and more platforms that create dialogue between the several stakeholders included and integrated in the assessment of value of these new technologies. Among those platforms are the recent conferences held in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, including and not limiting to precision medicine, Abu Dhabi Global Healthcare Week, but also not only conferences as platforms, but also there are the creation of many intelligence and smart solutions that unify industry and payers and make sure that any evidence, any agreement is held within the best possible analytics and the best possible information technology to make sure that there is a fair assessment for all these new innovation. And last but not least, I want really to focus on the importance of localizing technology and creating local capabilities as well in order to make sure that between brackets expensive technologies have maybe a more fair approach and less costly approach by localizing this technology in order to make sure that it has better reach to patient and better access to patient who need that. So I would like to leave the floor for my colleague Samah to summarize what we have presented today and really elucidate the critical success factors that are important in the adoption of new technology from a regulatory and access perspective.
Thank you, Ayman. So, as we heard, new approaches, new advanced therapies need new mindset and stakeholders to redefine and to reimagine what good value means to our patients, because we cannot use the ordinary the old ordinary mindset and perception about the pharmaceutical, the regular pharmaceutical we're dealing with. We cannot use this perception anymore when we are looking at these advanced therapies and the several aspects around it. So we need to reimagine and redefine what exactly is the value for the patients first, and then for other stakeholders here, like healthcare professionals, payers, and also regulators and government. The agility in the framework and policies, as we mentioned, it's very important to consider new approaches in especially in regulations, because not all regulations and all the regulatory frameworks will fit in this new solutions, especially when we are talking about technology like AI, machine learning, data, big data, that it really advances in very high and fast pace. And finally, integration and advocacy. All stakeholders should be in continuous discussion and engagement about this facilitating this access to new innovations, to be engaged with decision makers in a continuous and open communication channel to advocate for this and to facilitate and pave the way to these new technologies that will bring a lot to our patients. This is the last slide we have. We're really happy to have any question, any comment from the audience. And again, thank you for your attention and for your attendance today. Any question at the audience, you can just drop it in the chat and we can, of course, answer it. Okay, maybe I can start the discussion here. I will ask my colleague Ayman. Thank you for the great insights that you gave, and maybe I would ask you about what do you think about the progress in our markets in adoption of the value based and to look the new definition of value. When we talk about pharmaceuticals and biotherapeutics, traditional, molecules that we have in the market, but also in other advanced solutions like digital solutions, like AI solutions. How do you see the progress in each of these different categories?
Thank you, Samah. And I believe there are lots of initiatives around the region that are promoting more and more the science, the theory, linking the dots, gathering people around one table. However, there are still some discrepancies between some countries and other ones, some regulators and others, but also the readiness also of the industry to these shifts. So I believe there are still some discrepancies that will, with time, be reduced more and more unified once we really progress into a different way of thinking and different formalized frameworks. We're witnessing eventually around the region that some ministries are already applying HOR tools in order to assess medication, especially in the areas of rare disease, orphan drugs, hemato-oncology, immunology. Saudi Arabia, there are now specific processes to include products in the Ministries of Health. As we've seen today, also the formalization of the economic evaluation guidelines in the Saudi FDA. The publication of some frameworks related to the MCDA will help elevate the thinking and will help also using more and more tools for better assessment. What I also think that we need in the region is more evidence and more localized evidence to inform a fair HOR approach, like specific and transparent cost effectiveness thresholds, local costing of cost drivers that will be eventually used in the cost effectiveness models or budget impact models. This is it from my perspective. I also believe that the progress made in the pharmacological aspect and in the non-health tech, okay, has progressed much faster. However, I believe at the speed of the evolution that we're witnessing in AI and in medical technologies and digital solution, we will also witness a fast-paced change in adapting and adopting these frameworks to a non-pharmacological innovation, everything related to medical technology, devices, etc. So I believe it will follow, and it will follow at a very fast pace.
Yes, great. We received a couple of questions here. The first question is, should a global digital AI product be controlled? It's globally available. How about the classifications if it's claimed to be general wellness products, not medically specified, or a software rather than a healthcare software? It's two questions in one question. So the first question, digital health solution that utilize AI is controlled if it is classified as such. There is a clear classification at the FDA. I provided in my presentation a link to the FDA Center for Digital Health, and you can check it. Or also in the EMA, there is a clear classification if your software or AI solution could be considered as software as medical device, and if it is it should be pre-approved or abide by some regulations there. If you're talking about wellness products like all what we have in our iWatch or our mobiles, the sports apps, maybe the sleep apps, these kind of things. So far, there is no clear regulations for this. Especially in our markets, it's still available at the App Store without any limitations, except of course to be abide to the data privacy. If you're collecting any personal data of the users, data privacy and security, of course you have to abide to the local regulations of data privacy and security that I shared with you. But from the health authority perspective, if it is not classified as software as medical device or a regulated digital health solution, it will not be under the under the pre-approval product type. I hope I answered your question clearly. What would be the implications of EES guidelines in KSA? I'm not sure what is EES. Do you know it, Ayman?
Yes, it's the economic
Okay.
evaluation studies.
Okay.
And there are certainly lots of implication for these guidelines. The first one is to really govern and organize the value assessment early on at the registration level. And I know that in some aspects, the question arises whether the economic evaluation should happen at the registration level or at the reimbursement level or at which stage. But it is also important to start having early readiness, whether from a regulator and assessor perspective, but also from an industry perspective, and start preparing evidence and develop evidence or adapt evidence in order to fuel and the technical regulatory file with economic evaluation. That will help the authority, the agency, the Saudi FDA, basically, not only assess the price from an international reference price perspective, but also from a value perspective. And this is certainly part of the health transformation program towards value-based healthcare. I believe industry should be ready and to have internal capabilities within the access and HOR teams in order to have the adequate readiness for submissions in due time. And I think it will be a work in progress, whether in 2025 and beyond. And the dialogue with the Saudi FDA will help balance a fair assessment, fair evidence submitted, because I believe maybe not every product will have enough evidence. Will it be developed along the way? That will be really a work in progress with Saudi FDA, but it is certainly very interesting.
What about real-world evidence generation to optimize patient access?
Sure, and I believe here, Samah, there are two aspects for real-world evidence generation. It can be from a regulatory aspect to complete the evidence related for approval, and it can be to inform reimbursement, whether the local data is limited or even the global data with the file is limited. Knowing we have new technologies that have limited patient numbers that are addressing orphan designations, or possibly might have any challenge or uncertainty at the performance level. So here real-world evidence would come to support whether regulatory or reimbursement. And from experience, I was really interested to look at how transformative is the agenda of ISPOR Global last year in 2023, where ISPOR Europe actually, where the agenda is now focusing more and more on real-world evidence. And this is basically one of the most critical trends in HOR now. More and more sessions on real-world evidence, focusing on the need of that. However, I still believe that products with solid evidence would certainly be easier to register and access, and products with less evidence might require that, whether on registration or reimbursement. However, this really requires agile frameworks within the region, platforms, in order to develop data that is really covered by what you have presented, Samah, in what it relates to patient privacy, GDPR, all these aspects. And I believe medical teams and regulators, they have, enough guidelines at the time being in order to support that.
Yes, exactly. And the last question, thank you, Sarah. Happy to see you here. Would you elaborate more for the agile and iterative framework? Actually, this agile and iterative framework started to evolve. We can see it in the big, markets like and the stringent health authorities like FDA or Health Canada, sometimes in Europe. And one, for example, to simplify for you, if we are talking about the adaptive the adaptive pathways or the adaptive clinical trials design, simply is not to follow the long pathway of developing the ordinary pharmaceutical product, because sometimes these types of new products have very different specifications and nature and needs in the market. Are totally different than the ordinary products that we need to start the first of the R&D steps, and then the pre-clinical steps, then to move to 3 phases, long phases of clinical trials that include a certain number of candidates, sometimes are very huge to hire and to in the clinical trials. So the agile and iterative framework consider to utilize new aspects of regulatory science to prove the efficacy, safety, and quality of the products when it is not the normal or the ordinary products. So from the very early beginning of the R&D step, regulators and manufacturers are discussing together the R&D pathway and how to develop the clinical trials, and how to prove the efficacy and safety in a way that fits the products, and at the end also fulfill the quality and safety of the products. They test some approaches work, and some approaches does not work. Like any agile projects you involve in, so they test some approaches like using real world evidence to simulate one of the arms in the RCTs, the randomized clinical trials. And actually this have been used for a long time now in FDA, and used to also approve some of the products. Some products needs very customized and tailored regulatory pathway. So this is what is meant by agile, and this actually needs very strong digitized data infrastructure at the authority level and the company level that will facilitate the real-time transfer of data generated and the data analyzed during the full life cycle of the R&D. So I hope it's really very new concept in the field. It's more advanced, of course, in like very well-established authorities. Hope to see it here in our region very soon. Thank you very much, Samah and Ayman, for the informative session. I'm interested to know more about the pricing methodology that are authorities looking for. Are they moving to rely on economic evaluation rather than sticking to the ordinary way of pricing, back referencing, or maybe the approach will be considering for both methodologies? Many thanks in advance. Ayman, do you want to address
Yeah,
this?
sure. Thank you, Lina. Very interesting question. If we look at a historical perspective to the pricing policies in the region, we see that there are some initiatives to change a bit. For example, in 2018 was the last review for the IRP in UAE, and it had listed 18 countries. However, if we see in Saudi Arabia in the last 2 to 3 years, it was reduced from 30 to 16. And I believe at the beginning of this month of July, also Oman has reduced its reference price list from 30 to, I believe, 16 countries. So this shows a more focus and more restrictive use of the IRP, probably to start also integrating the aspect of HEOR and value-based comparison to pricing. However, I still do not believe that for registration, we are in a place where we are witnessing really a transformative shift from IRP. So if you look at the global level, we still see that IRP and reference pricing remains the gold standard. However, as they say, the devil resides in the detail. So it's how this IRP is applicable. Is it a formal IRP? Is it an informal? Is it only to dictate prices? Like in the region, for example, you have Lebanon, UAE, Jordan, Morocco. These are countries that adopt a formal IRP, which means they have they do not look into HEOR unless in maybe exceptional cases. Whereas you see that the Saudi Arabian agency, the SFDA, clearly states that they intend to look less and less into the IRP and embed the economic evaluation guidelines. We will need to see and monitor how the other countries in the Gulf will follow, whether they will embed and at which pace the economic evaluation at the registration price level. This is from one side. From the other side, it's the reimbursement price is actually also the very important question. We know that many of the payers in the region, they still have a clinical aspect as a driving component. But there is no doubt that with the more and more pressure on budgets and the cost of innovation, there will be shift. And the pace actually is different, as I iterated before. There is a discrepancy in the pace between a market and another. So the faster train actually today is Saudi Arabia, and will probably be followed by maybe more price sensitive payers in the region.
I don't see any further questions. Okay, so thank you so much all for really the insightful questions and enriching the discussions with these questions. And back to Medre to close the session.
Thank you very much, everybody, especially Dr. Samah and Ayman. It was really informative to hear what you had to say, how that needs to move forward. It's amazing to see everything that's happening in Saudi. I'm also working on precision medicine Saudi at the moment, so I'm also learning a lot on what's implemented, what the CHC is doing on reimbursement. So I'm learning a lot on that. So looking forward to really getting my hooks into it and understanding the topic really well and bringing this to the forefront in the next discussion. So thank you very much for this, and we are very happy and thank everybody that joined us today. We hope to see you next week. Next week we'll be discussing with Dose ME. We'll talk about precision medication and how that's being done with the I can't remember. I will Please watch LinkedIn, have a look, and join us next week. We'll be doing it at 4:30 next week. Next week, Wednesday, 4:30, and we're discussing Dose Me, precision dosage. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.